Welcome back, everybody. And as I do this intro, I'm kind of laughing inside because every week Daniel says, do you know what you're going to say? And he goes, and then he says, are you ready? And
what's your answer?
Both answers are no. Every time.
And yet here we are.
But here we are at the Temple Daily Telegram Sports Podcast. Back for another week. So exciting. Josh Weaver, Daniel Zepeda.
Hello.
Marcus Hood.
Howdy.
Well, all of a sudden we are approaching, we're approaching something in November. And Temple is one victory away from an outright district championship. Belton looks like it's going to be back in action this week after
fingers crossed
with health issues. And we have a few more area teams left that have advanced into the second round of the playoffs. Marcus is emptying his pockets for some reason.
I guess he's going to be here for a while.
Phone,
I mean, we're only going to be here
wallet,
for 30 minutes, so I don't know what you're doing.
Lotto tickets. What's going on?
Ooh, I wish one of those lotto tickets would hit. Whew.
They never do.
Well, it actually helps if you actually buy one. I just don't do that. But
hey, man, you already won the lotto. You're born in the U.S. of A., baby.
That's right. Living in Central Texas.
Hit the jackpot.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Marcus?
I guess you want me to run down some scores.
Yes. Do you have the playoff scores from last week? Or scores/results?
Yes, I do. We'll start Class 4A Division 1. The highest division that has started the playoffs so far. My pass is a big opening win over Uvalde, however you want to pronounce it, 61-14. In Class 4A Division 2, both of our area teams, their games were decided by forfeits. Solato defeated Russ by a forfeit, and Carthage defeated Gatesville by a forfeit. That's COVID.
Yes.
Class 3 Division 1, Hallettsville 61, Academy 26. Columbus 42, Rockdale 15. Class 3A Division 2, Rogers 41, Tidehaven 34. Class 2A Division 1, Holland 28, Centerville 20. And then Class 2A Division 2, Granger 42, Rock Springs 26.
Thank you very much. Congratulations all around to teams that advanced and teams that qualified but were unable to move on in the playoffs, whether it be forfeit or loss. But you got there and those seasons were good.
You're going to the area round regardless.
Yes. So upcoming this week, we still have some regular season games to play as well as the second round of the playoffs. Temple, as I mentioned, has a chance to wrap up a District 12-6A title, and it travels to face Colleen Shoemaker 7 p.m. Thursday. Temple 7-1 overall, 5-0 in district. Shoemaker 6-1 and 4-1. And on Friday in 12-6A, Colleen Ellison is at Belton. The Eagles 2-6, 1-4, and the Tigers back after not playing since October 30th, 2-5 overall and 2-2. We'll talk about those games coming up in a minute, but first, here are the playoff games on tap this week. In 4A Division 2, the area round, Solato 10-1 against Belleville, 9-1, 7 p.m. Friday at UMHB. The winner of that one gets Carthage or Silsbee. In 3A Division 2, Rogers against Poth. Rogers 6-5, Poth 9-0, Friday 7:30. Smithville's Tiger Stadium. The winner there gets George West or Buffalo. In 2A Division 1, 9-2 Holland versus 5-5 Garrison. That's a 7 p.m. kick Friday night at Fairfield's Eagle Stadium. Winner gets Timpson or Jewett-Leon. And in 2A Division 2, 8-2 Granger against 8-2 Falls City. That's a rematch of a third round game last year. This one is 7 o'clock on Friday at Fredericksburg's Batlin Billy Stadium. The winner there gets to Heinous. Is that right?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay. Or El Dorado.
Yeah.
Cool. Got it. In TAP 6-man Division 2, this is a by-district game. Galveston O'Connell Prep 1-4 is at Holy Trinity Catholic. 3-4, 7 o'clock. Winner gets Kerrville, Our Lady of the Hills, which apparently got a bye into the second round. And coming up on Saturday, 4A Division I, Lampasas 9-0 versus Corpus Christi Miller 7-4. That's 8 o'clock start on a Saturday. That's a tough gig. And the winner gets Bernie or Calhoun. And in TAPS Division IV, a bi-district round, Central Texas Christian 6-1 plays Weatherford Christian 2-5 at noon in Dublin's Serveto Stadium. The winner against Munster Sacred Heart, and CTCS actually beat Weatherford Christian earlier this season pretty handily. So I'm picking the Lions in that one.
On paper, that's probably a good bet.
Yeah. So that's what we got going.
It's kind of crazy that still have to wrap up the regular season. A lot of things to be decided, playoff seedings, district titles, and 5A and 6A.
Yeah.
And then we're just rolling along in 4A and lower as far as playoffs go.
Yeah.
I agree. And like you said, Temple's going to play for an outright district championship this week. And I think a lot of people are kind of surprised that they're playing a Shoemaker team that now has one loss after last week. So
yeah.
Josh,
well, this was the game that kind of folks who follow 12-6A were probably looking at the beginning of the season as one that could have some of these district title implications to it. I think the teams were picked 1 and 2 by certain publications to end up in the district in that order. Temple 1, Shoemaker 2, but we will see. And like you mentioned, Marcus, the Grey Wolves were undefeated, 6-0 overall, 4-0 going into last week's action. But Harker Heights came up with the 51-50 victory in overtime over there at Leo Buckley Stadium.
Yeah, that's a basketball score.
It was, and it's not, those are two very good teams, and when Killeen ISD schools match up, a lot can happen, and we saw that last week in that one. So Temple, meanwhile, was sitting and waiting after not being able to play Belton last week, after the Tigers had to cancel that matchup because of COVID issues. So now here we are. And essentially, like I said before, and Marcus has said, Temple, a win, and it's an outright district title. Wildcats shared the district championship last year, so this outright one is obviously one that's on their radar and will mean a lot. But standing in their way is a very talented Shoemaker team. Temple head coach Scott Stewart has talked pretty much all district season about the Grey Wolves team speed, how fast they are, how experienced they are, and head coach Toby Foreman over there has done a great job. He took over a team that was 0-10 the previous season. His first year they were 0-10, then they go 2-8 his second year, and then last year 7-4 playoff qualifiers, finishing third in 12-6A, and it's just kind of been an upward trend ever since he got there. And Scott Stewart pointed that out. He really commended Foreman's job that he's done over there with the Grey Wolves. And you could just look back to last year's game between these two. Shoemaker was winning 21-17 with about 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Temple ended up winning that one 38-28. But, obviously Shoemaker is catching up to the top tier of this district, and which means, Thursday night, expect to see a very good game.
It's going to be a good one, yeah, for sure. And you said for Foreman, this is his fourth season over there, so that's kind of the goal if you're stepping into a new program. You get to a new program, no matter where it's at, you implement your system, you work with the younger kids, try to set the foundation, and then see gradual improvement. Like you said, 0-10 that first year, 2-8, 7-4 last year, and now they're competing for the district title right there along with Temple. So I mean, that's a heck of a job for Foreman and his staff over there, and that's really what you want if you're stepping into a new situation like he did.
And when you get that buy-in, like you said, that you get to year 3, year 4, you're coaching these guys, starting, or at least you're around the players,
right,
starting when they're 7th and 8th grade, and they come up, they kind of know the system. And this group of seniors that the Grey Wolves have actually been playing varsity since they were sophomores. Some of them, even before that. So
a lot of experience
there. For instance, quarterback Ty Bell, he's been a multi-year starter, and he's dual threat, running and throwing, weapons everywhere. Running backs Devin Brown, DeAndre Exford, receivers Monterey Baldwin. So, I mean, it's, Temple's going to have its hands full, which isn't a surprise in this district. You go into any one of these matchups knowing you're going to have to play as good as you can every night. The one thing Stewart said that Temple wants to avoid, obviously, is kind of getting off to a slow start like they did in the last Thursday game they played at Leo Buckley Stadium when they fell behind 20-0 against Heights and won that game by 2. That won't be advisable against Shoemaker.
Yeah, I don't know if you can. Won't be as easy to overcome that.
Right.
Never say never.
Right, but what
Never do.
Right. But what an opportunity for Temple though. Riding a 5-game winning streak, to have a shot with 2 regular season games left for that district championship. They've already got the playoff spot locked up, but to go into the final game of the regular season as district champions, that would be huge for the Wildcats for sure. But like we said, Shoemaker standing in the way, and
yeah, that's not a gimme at all. So that'll be interesting.
It's going to be entertaining, and that game can be heard on the radio. It's also going to be streamed live through Clean ISD's website. So all eyes, at least in Temple, are going to be on that one.
It'll be a good one.
And as we shift over to more 12-6-8 talk, let me just go real quick over the standings, and then we'll get to Daniel and the Belton-Ellison matchup. But going into this week, Temple 5-0, Shoemaker 4-1, Bryan 4-2. Bryan picked up a victory earlier this week via forfeit because Copper's Cove, unfortunately, has continued to struggle with COVID cases, having to cancel its 3rd straight game. They hopefully will be able to get to make up one of those, but 2 in a row go to forfeit. Belton 2-2, Harker Heights 2-2, Killeen 1-3, Ellison 1-4, and Cove 0-5. So Daniel, after a bunch of unfortunate health issues over with the Tigers and 1 game postponed, 1 game canceled, Belton a couple days away from looking like they're going to be back on the field.
Looks like it. All signs are kind of pointing to the Tigers getting back in action, getting their varsity team rolling once again. I know head coach Brett Sniffen and his coaching staff are excited to once again get to work with the varsity squad this past week. The past couple weeks they've been helping out primarily with the freshman and sub-varsity program. So, it's good to get a little bit of sense of normalcy there. It's the first game for Belton since, like you said, October 30th, excuse me. It feels like October 3rd, going through all of this and trying to manage that, and that's just from our end. So you can imagine how the coaches and players feel. But Belton's first game since October 30th, a 34-33 last-second loss. Bryan scores a touchdown with 25 seconds left. So a game that Belton should have won probably. And then from there, it kind of spiraled and got worse and worse for Belton.
I like how you tied that into your notebook this week. I mean, not only have the Tigers not been able to play the last couple of weeks, their last experience in the game was that tough loss.
Having to keep that taste in your mouth for the past 3 weeks definitely isn't ideal. So that Belton's going to be eager to come out and face Ellison and try to get a win there. Belton and Ellison, very similar in the fact that, both are very talented, both have a lot of weapons offensively and defensively, and both put themselves in positions to win ball games against pretty much any opponent they've played this year. The only problem is they just can't seem to get out of their own way at times. They'll get right to the precipice of scoring a touchdown or getting a game-changing stop, and then it's a self-inflicted penalty or a mistake or an error, etc. So when talking to head coach Brett Sniffen with Belton and then head coach Todd Wright over at Ellison, they both expressed those same kind of sentiments. So it was very interesting to get those viewpoints. We talked about it. Ellison 1-4 in district this year, but that's a very deceiving 1-4 when you kind of dive into it. Of those 5 games, only one of them has been just kind of a straight out loss, really. They got beat by Temple pretty handedly.
39-15.
Right, so you kind of saw they kind of kept it close at times, but it looked like that second half was primarily Temple from what I kind of remember from it. But through district so far for Ellison, they lost to Shoemaker to begin District 12 6A play, 21-17. They had 4 turnovers against the Grey Wolves. So, when you turn the ball over that much against a really good team like Shoemaker, usually isn't going to pan out well. The next week against Harker Heights, they drive pretty much the length of the field and are set up to kick a game-winning 31-yard field goal, but they kind of botched the snap. I don't know if it was, it was a bad snap or just a bad hold, but whatever the case is, they just couldn't get it off. So there's a 35-34 loss there. And then versus Killeen, they lose 27-20, where they had it 4th and 1 from the 15-yard line with just a few seconds left, and they just couldn't convert. And that's your ball game there. So again, 1-4, but close losses like that, really kind of show that they're right there. They're in every single one of those games. This is not a team that Belton needs to just look at their record and say, "Oh, we've got this," and Sniffen admitted so. He said they're a very deceiving 1-4. They're much better than what their record indicates, and they got a lot of playmakers. They're going to rely a lot on their passing game. Quarterback Felifa Manga, I believe. He's passed for almost 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns. They've got pretty much a stud leading the wide receiver core, Trajan Spiller. I think we've talked about him a couple times on our show. 40 catches, 766 yards, 8 touchdowns on the year. And then their running back, Demanja Harris, can be just as devastating, over 700 yards on the season and 5 touchdowns. So, this is an Ellison team that is very explosive. They like to take, big plays, big chunk plays, and really try to, score quickly, whereas Belton likes to hold on to the ball and methodically drive down the field and, wear a lot of time off the clock. So we'll see which team kind of gets the edge there. Just from what I've seen and what I've heard, you have to give a slight edge to Ellison because, they've played in the last 3 weeks. They didn't play last week because of they couldn't play again because of Copper's Cove and the COVID issues there. But Belton hasn't played since October 30th. So rust is going to be an issue for Belton. So we'll see how they overcome that. And then Ellison, it's just going to be a matter of if they can take care of business on the road at Tiger Field. And we'll see what happens. Another quick fact, first of 3 straight home games to end the regular season for Belton. So kind of been up and down season, but you got to like the fact that you get to play your last 3 at home.
And they're all, I think we can call them must-win.
Yeah, if you want to make the playoffs for Belton, yeah, for sure.
It looks like you're gonna need to get to 5 victories, or have 1 or 2 other results go your way. To make the playoffs. So Ellison, Shoemaker, and the makeup game against Heights. That's Belton's slate at home. I mean, they're all big games, very significant.
Yeah, you don't want to get into looking too far ahead if you're Belton for sure. But we'll do that because we have the luxury of doing it. Ellison, this is a team that Belton probably should beat, just because they've struggled a little more. Because if you can't beat Ellison, next week it doesn't get any easier when you play Shoemaker and then Harker Heights, which is right up there with them. So 3 games at home, 3 tough games at home to end the regular season for Belton, but the fire should be there, the drive should be there after having 3 unwanted weeks off there.
Yeah, because just that last game against Heights, that makeup game, you look at what the Knights have done. 2-2, I believe, in district.
Right.
The 2 losses, one we mentioned against Temple was 2 points, and then they lost to Bryan in the district opener, I think, by a touchdown. So, again, one of those, clean ISD teams that's, in every game.
And Bryan, I think at the start of district play, I think a lot of us were kind of like, man, that's kind of curious. Bryan getting the win over Harker Heights there, but Bryan keeps on chugging along. They've got a good dual threat young sophomore quarterback, got some playmakers, and they played really well at home, and they find themselves in a pretty good position at 4-2 in district.
Marcus. Yes.
Anything on your mind as we shift over to?
I was just thinking about what Daniel and you were talking about. About, it may take 5 wins to get in. 4 might get you in. Just kind of depends on where everybody else goes. But you're looking at a Shoemaker team that's 4-1, a Bryan team that's 4-2. I mean, Belton, their path to the playoffs, it's in their hands, really.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, you just got to win and keep winning. But it's going to be fun to watch how it plays out, even with all the COVID stuff going around. And I think Bryan, they might close with Ellison. I'm not real sure about that.
Yeah, I didn't look ahead to what Brian's got next week, but quite possibly. Yeah, it's and like you said, the COVID thing, it's running rampant again, it seems, and teams are taking a lot of precautions and things like that. So we're seeing a lot more cancellations and all that right now. So you never know when another one might crop up in this district. But
it's kind of
cross your fingers.
It's kind of one of those things where if you're on the other side of that, like Stewart, I mean, I'm sure they're glad to pick up a win for COVID, but at the same time, it's a bad way to pick up a win. For one, you never want to win by forfeit, and two, you don't want to have that extra week off.
Right. No, you want to be out there playing for sure.
Right. Yeah.
So you just need to get guys healthy.
Yeah, he's a very routine-minded coach, so I mean that's kind of where he was bummed out, I guess you could say, about not being able to play last week. Is just you're kind of out of this routine that you've been developing since early September, but every now and then those extra unexpected weeks off help, but then again,
Yeah, even Sniffin, when I was chatting with him on Wednesday for the Notebook, he said, it's a weird feeling because here we are and coming up on Thanksgiving and we're getting all these guys back from quarantining, and it kind of feels like the first week of practice all over again, just getting so many guys back that have been gone and haven't been able to practice. So yeah, you just roll with the punches, and it's been a season for sure.
It's been weird on us too, because like last Friday, I'm waking up thinking I'm going to go cover Solato versus Russ that night, and then
boom,
look on the internet and find out no, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean it's in other sports too. Yesterday I'm getting ready to go cover some Temple boys basketball,
right.
And Wildcats don't. That's two times in a row where they've had their season opener canceled on them, their opponent. So you just never know.
You're just afraid of those Wildcats.
Just keep adapting. Well, we have a few area playoff games and by district games, really. But the one that stands out, I think, obviously, is that Solato versus Belleville game at UMHB on Friday night. Solato 10-1, hasn't lost since week 2. Belleville 9-1, that's having a great season as well. And I believe this is the 4th playoff matchup between these two teams since maybe 2015 or something like that, around there.
Yeah, I think we were looking at that. I think that's what we just said.
Yeah. Belleville won a couple in a row. In 15 and 16, I believe, and then in 2017 the two teams played a classic, at least in my mind, at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, a 7-7 at the end of regulation. Belleville kicks a field goal to go up 10-7, and then on the first play of Solato's overtime possession, a touchdown pass to win the game. Yeah, in the third round
matchup. Watch that
matchup.
Solato passing game.
Yeah, that was a pretty awesome game.
It'll torch you.
And these two offenses are pretty similar. Run first, with a few passes mixed in, and familiar coach on the other side. Well, we have Alan Hare with Solato, been around the area a long time, his alma mater, and then Belleville, Grady Rowe, who's very familiar with Central Texas, and Marcus. You've worked with him quite a bit over the years, and you probably even talked to him this week about this game.
Yeah, because apparently there was some false information being tweeted out this game was going to be in Pflugerville. Not from anybody on our staff, but that it would be Saturday in Pflugerville. And I think Rose saw an area tweet, and he got in touch with me.
Saturday in Pflugerville? What is it?
Saturday in Pflugerville at the Phil. But yeah, that was Rose said that was never the case, and the information was false. They had discussed possibilities, but yeah, so he reached out to me to let me know that, and so anyway,
So what you're saying is everything on Twitter is not 100% true.
Does that make you an insider or what?
I wouldn't say an insider, but yeah, I mean, Roe and I kind of go way back to his days in Troy. So, yeah, he's a good guy. He's never had a losing season. He's like, I don't know how many years in coaching now. And this is probably, I mean, he's had some good teams, but this may be one of his best Belleville teams. I mean, their one loss, I think, was by a field goal in overtime as well this year. And they're just on fire. And, you know, they're playing a Solato team that's pretty much on fire, and they run the same type of offense. Just like you said, run first. Right. Yeah. I saw one thing on Twitter that somebody said, Solato versus Belleville, that game will be over in an hour.
Well, that's
the dream.
That overtime game a few years ago, I think started at 7, and it was one of the fastest games. And you know what? Actually, it started at 8. I think it started at 8, and we still got a deadline on a Thursday. Man. Yeah, so that tells you how fast. There were 2 separate 8+ minute drives in that game.
Oh man!
For each offense. 8 minutes. Quarters are 12 minutes.
Yeah. Your halftime lasts longer than either half. Like what?
Yeah, essentially that is true.
Yeah.
But so you're saying we've got 2 teams that are both playing really well, that are coached really well, that are very familiar with each other, and they run similar styles.
Pretty much, yeah.
And the winner
should be pretty close then, right? You know, probably. Yeah.
And the winner gets to play most likely Carthage. So.
And they both wear red and white. So.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I like both these coaches, although Alan Hare probably has like about 1.5 foot advantage over Grady Rowe. Hare's pretty tall. Rowe is, I won't say he's short, but he's definitely not as tall as Rowe.
They go to height if the teams are still tied after 20 overtime.
Yeah, it's like the 15th tiebreaker down the list.
See, that's why I never went into coaching. I never went into coaching. I couldn't do that to those players. I was like, sorry guys, I just tried to wear my lifts today. I couldn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
What Daniel's saying is that he's not 6 feet tall.
You know what? I would take just under 6 feet tall, actually. So, see, behind the mic, you have no idea how tall I am. Fun fact, though, last time I talked to Alan Hare just a couple of weeks ago.
Hang on. So far from Daniel, we've had a quick fact and a fun fact.
Just full of facts today. Just on a roll, man. Fun fact and quick fact. When I talked to Alan Hare last night, not last night, goodness, last week, previewing their playoff opener, he said that Marcus Hood should go to all of their games because you're good luck for the Eagles. So,
well, that is a fun fact.
I'm just relaying it, man.
Well, unfortunately, I will not be at the game tomorrow night, Coach Hare. You'll have to deal with Josh Weaver, I believe.
And I was at the game 3 seasons ago in 2017 when Solato beat Belleville at the Alamo Dome.
Are you still carrying that good mojo, though? It's been a while, so.
Was he saying that he just basically didn't want you there, Daniel, or just...
I mean, I'm not going to come out and say that because he didn't come out and say that, but over the phone, it sounded pretty personal, so we'll just leave it at that.
I mean, I also covered Solato's opener this season at UMHB when it beat Troy, so, you know, I kind of feel slighted in the good luck category.
On the opposite side,
at least for Solato.
There's probably some coaches that are calling up here and saying, we don't ever want to see Marcus again. He's bad luck.
I think Troy, Ronnie Porter and Troy would feel that way about me because I think I've covered like their last like 3 playoff exits.
Hey, I know Brad Talbert over at Holland. He said to me personally, face to face after one of their playoff games, every time I pick against them in a big game, Holland always wins. So he said he gets ecstatic every time I pick against the Hornets. So
you picking this week in that game, Danny?
I will pick against the Hornets because go Talbert, go Holland. I'm just doing my part.
That is the game I will be at this week. So
Holland, cool.
Yeah,
in Fairfield Eagle Stadium,
right? And I know, kind of looking at the game film on that one. Garrison, kind of an East Texas team that they're just kind of crafty. They don't have a lot of speed. I mean, they got some guys that can make plays. Not real. The film I saw them, they didn't look like they had a lot of speed going for them. Just. It's they do kind of balance their attack, run pass. They'll go under center, they'll go shotgun. Kind of a lot of formations, just kind of get a lot of play styles out there and kind of use some misdirection and just when they throw it, they get the ball to a playmaker who can go up and get a pass. Not going to be anything real flashy to get a big score. Just kind of go down, and I think that bodes into Holland's hands pretty well, though. I mean, Holland will probably. I give Holland a little bit of an edge in this one, but.
Yeah, Holland's playing well. That defense is, one of the tops in the areas. Again, I mean, almost every year it seems like that. So,
and I think the Hornets are going to have to rely on that defense coming up on Friday night, just because I think. Last week, Aiden Tomasek, I think he had to come out in the second quarter.
Quarterback,
quarterback, and didn't return. So, his status is, at least as far as we know, up in the air.
He does a lot for Holland.
Because that game was close, 28-20. So we'll see.
There, they'll probably run a little bit more than normal. I mean, they ran a lot this year anyway, but I mean, he's a big part of that. I mean, he can run the ball pretty well. So
yeah. Quick shout out to Rogers. They trailed pretty big for what I remember. I don't remember the score exactly in their by-district game, but
shout out to Trilling.
They were able to come back and get the win there. So way to go, Eagles. And then Granger getting the win last week against Rock Springs. A little bit of payback there. Rock Springs beat Granger in the by-district round in 2017, I believe. That was the last time Granger lost a by-district game. So, getting those seniors getting a little bit of a payback there, but they play a really good Falls City team in the second round. And Josh, as you mentioned earlier, it's a rematch of a third round contest from last season with that win in Falls City favor. So see how that one goes. Those are two really good teams, and
Falls City quite the opposite of that. I mean, they have been to the playoffs. This is a 13th straight season, and they have not lost by a district game in that time. So
yeah,
and that was like 55-8 last year or something like that they beat Granger.
Was it? Yeah.
I mean, it was
pretty convincing. Yeah.
And last year, I mean, Granger has a new coach this year, and I think last year Walt brought in you going into that one that Granger was going to have to play pretty much the game of their lives to stay ahead, and it was just one of those where Falls City got the lead and Granger could never catch up. But
it's I feel like it's a little more difficult to kind of predict or at least assume outcomes this year, because you just don't know.
Oh yeah.
What teams are bringing, how healthy they are,
right.
What they've been dealing with, and Granger and Falls City both 8-2. So, I mean, you can't base much off records either.
It's definitely a toss up. I mean, and at this point, us for sure, but the players and coaches and fans and parents as well. Everyone's just hoping that we can get to Friday and get to Saturday as far as playing these games. So again, you never know when an announcement's going to come. A phone call from a nurse is going to happen. Just anything. So that's the main goal. Just making it to game day.
Yes. And if you've made it to this part of the podcast, since we're handing out shout outs, you guys get one too.
You get a shout out. You get a
shout out to you.
Yeah.
And you, and you, and you.
See, Marcus, you're gonna have to put all that stuff like back in your pockets and have to gear up like you're climbing Everest or something. It's gonna be a treat.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
See you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.